Hi, everybody. Welcome to History 5, History of Europe from 1901 to the present. And this hopefully is not the longest or the shortest, but the maybe least, well, one of the most important lectures, but maybe the least interesting, I suppose, in a way, because it's a syllabus. All right, so that's not exactly the most scintillating topic, but the class is, and the topic is. So the topic is fantastic. The syllabus is just to get you and I on the same page how we're going to experience this extraordinary, a little bit 100 plus years of European history. And what takes place in 100 years is so action packed in the realm of intellect, culture, ideas, and outcomes. The whole world still is trembling as a response to what took place in those 100 plus years, and still is, because we're not done with that story, as you guys know. Just within the last 9 months ago, well, more than that ago, almost a year ago now, it's going on with Ukraine and all that's taking place. So what is taking place in Europe continues to shake the world, for good and for ill, and in our class we have a chance to really engage at that. So by the way, this is one of my favorite classes. I love this class. I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you guys. Now, it's virtual, so it is a little bit of a one-way, I suppose, as I'm lecturing to you guys. Wish I could see you guys. But the topic is profound. It's engaging. It's the best and worst of humanity. As you guys probably are well aware, maybe that's why you're taking this class. It's incredibly foundational for us to understand our current world we live in, and more and more. So, all right, so let's jump in. So, begin the syllabus with the quote by the French philosopher and historian of philosophy, Etienne Gilson, and she writes, "History is the only laboratory we have to which to test the consequences of thought." So, the 20th century, as in all historical time periods, but 20th century probably is one of the most, I suppose, creative, although there's other time periods too, the Renaissance certainly, and scientific revolution and all that. But the 20th century would be up there as far as creative expressions of how to live as a human being and trying different modalities of what that looks like. In other words, philosophies, ideas. And the 20th century, even though the 20th century necessarily didn't always create these things, in some ways the 18th century, in the 19th century, into the 20th century, these ideas are all being created and pooled. But in the 20th century is where, for the first time, you have human beings in parts of the world, but especially in Europe, who are really trying to take these philosophies, these ideas, whether it's socialism or Marxism, liberal democracy, which is actually older, but how that copes with the modern world is still evolving, and how these and fascism as well too, and how these great thought systems are all going to play out. And Europe really is a testing ground. Now, it'll take place in Asia and Africa and the Americas too, so it's not just in Europe. But Europe really is ground zero when these first theories are really tried in many ways. Again, liberal democracy in the United States certainly has a longer track record and predates so many things taking place in Europe in the 20th century, of course. But certainly fascism, socialism, Marxism, Europe is going to be, again, for good or ill, the great test tube for how these thought systems may work among humanity. The 20th century saw amazing achievements in the realm of culture, science. It also saw some extraordinary depths, as we know, the Holocaust, most famous of those. But of course, it's not just the Holocaust. The purges in Russia and the Holodomor and the Ukraine and the horrific fighting of fascism and communism and genocidal outcome for some of these philosophies. So, in any case, that's all to come. So let me just scroll down here a little bit. I don't want to get too long into a prelude to what we're getting to. So There on the left, get rid of that. Okay. There on the left, we have a painting by the great artist Marc Chagall, who actually began his life in Russia. Eventually come to the West, and the rest of his life in Russia. But his background is in Russia. Eventually, he'll move on to Western Europe. But the painting, and it might be a little bit surprising if you remember from Marc Chagall. Marc Chagall, by the way, is Jewish. So it's a little surprising, perhaps, to see a painting by a Jewish artist. At the central part, he is a figure of Christ. If you guys are familiar with the Jewish faith, that's not an important figure in the Jewish faith, as you guys know. The Jewish faith, of course, is awaiting the Messiah, but they believe that Jesus of Nazareth was not the Messiah. In fact, they might say an imposter, although maybe they're more generous and say a wise teacher, a good man, clearly, but not the Messiah. So maybe it's perhaps very surprising that a Jewish artist would center his piece of art with the crucifixion of Christ. Now, he put a Jewish piece of clothing on him, which would be correct because Jesus was Jewish. But then when you look around it, maybe you have some other interesting imagery as you see there too. You see the flag of Russia there. You see the red flag, which is going to be of leftist movements, could represent Bolshevism or socialism in general, Marxism. You see a Jewish menorah there. You see someone fleeing there. You see a boat. You see some trauma in a village being burned. You see something quite dark taking place here. You see flames bursting from these houses here. You see a Jewish man carrying a Torah scroll right here, and he's fleeing. And so all this kind of iconography is put together, and then you see the date when Marc Chagall painted this, 1938, and he taught it White Crucifixion. So this is not an art history class, so I'm not going to spend too long breaking down that painting. But Marc Chagall, even though as a Jewish artist, thought in the Western tradition of art, what imagery can I bring to the larger Western audience, who's primarily non-Jewish, of course, to illustrate just the magnitude and the passionate issues of life and, of course, death taking place in Eastern Europe with the rise of fascism, the anti-Semitism that's, of course, in 30, as you guys know, is not just alive and well, its teeth are red with the blood. It's going to get even worse coming soon. And Marc Chagall thinking, what kind of iconography can I use to illustrate the trauma that Europe is going through? And even though as a Jewish person does not accept Christ as the Messiah, but in Western art, it's one of the most powerful iconic images we have of injustice, pain, suffering, of loss and humanity doing the darkest thing. Because in the Christian context, the crucifixion of Christ is humanity going insane, the Godhead coming to save us, and we have executed God himself in human flesh. What a nightmare. And so Marc Chagall using the iconography, that imagery, to illustrate the state of Europe in 1938. And of course, it's going to get darker. And similar, we have Pablo Picasso's a study from his masterpiece, Guernica, which is recalling the German bombing of the town of Guernica in Spain during the Spanish Civil War, and the civilian population being massacred by this rain of Black Death from the German bombers. In this case, it's obviously quite abstracted, but that's a mother holding a child. So that's an intro. By the way, the entire class is not based only on sadness and conflict, of course, right? There's many brilliant things that took place in Europe in the 100 years we're going to talk about. But admittedly, as you guys know, we are drawn and legitimately drawn to the great conflicts. And there's a reason why, because oftentimes those show humanity wrestling over the biggest issues of our time and how those issues play out. So, all right. So a couple quotes here, and let's get to these by George Orwell. We're going to spend quite a bit of time with him. But George Orwell writes, and I love this quote. It's powerful, and we'll use this for the class. But Orwell writes, the point is we're all capable of believing should be things. Oops. Maybe I can fix that right now. Okay. On the fly. Okay. We're all believing things which we know to be untrue. And then, when we are finally proved wrong, impudently twisting the facts as to show that we were right. Intellectually, it's possible to carry on this process for an indefinite time. The only check on it is that sooner or later, a false belief bumps up against solid reality, usually on the battlefield. Now, this is where this is self-reflective for all of us, and a topic like the 20th century Europe down to today is not simply us clucking our tongues at the extremes of human behavior that took place in the 20th century and the depths of human behavior in the 20th century. That, yes, we will examine that, but additionally, history at its best also gives us a framework to look at where we're at too, a perspective we're at too. And George Orwell, I would argue, is announcing a truism there. The truism is, yeah, of course we can look back from hindsight and very quickly and oftentimes correctly see the disastrous decisions or the good ones that took place during the past 100 years in Europe. But Orwell is also reminding us that the human mind, and that's you and me, all of us, that part of our human nature is to choose what we want to believe in and to hold so tightly to our preferred version of reality. There we go. Our preferred version of reality, not reality, our preferred interpretation of reality, which matches the way we think things, we want things to be. And ignoring any data or feedback or glimpses of reality that intrude on this constructed castle of thought we have of how we want things to be. And George Orwell's like, ooh, careful. It's a common human tendency. We all have it, which is to have blinders on to see only what we want to see and ignore other versions of reality. But Orwell's like, but reality exists whether we accept it in its fullness or not. And the sad part is oftentimes people, until a catastrophic situation bumps up, a reality intrudes upon them. Sometimes, again, he mentioned in the battlefield, in war sometimes. Is only when people begin to awake of perhaps their self-perception was a delusion. So that's helpful both on a national level, on a group level, and ultimately, and most applicable for you and I probably on the personal level too, as a warning. Next quote there is by Winston Churchill, and this is from the dark days preceding the Battle of Britain, where Churchill asked, you ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word, victory. Victory at all cost. Victory in spite of Voltaire. Victory, however long and hard the road may be, for without victory there is no survival. That's the stakes. That's the stakes. That's not hyperbole or an exaggeration. The consequences, the outcome of World War II for many groups, not just an individual group, for many groups, is existential, is will they survive the outcome of that war? Not just the fighting, but the consequences of the ultimate consequences of fascist thought as interpreted by Adolf Hitler. And will you and your kind survive the triumph of the Nazi Reich? And Churchill says, we must win. Absolutely must win. And there's our two gentlemen. We'll spend quite a bit of time with them. All right, that's a pretty good prelude. I don't want to make this too long. We better jump right into the class, what we need to do. So let's shift gears here in a minute. By the way, I love this topic, so I don't want to hurry away from it, but it's a syllabus. I know you guys got things to do. I do too. So let's get into the nuts and bolts, and because we'll have lots of time the whole semester to more deeply dive into the topics I just briefly touched on, introduced. So both those gentlemen will spend more time with, as you'll see here shortly. So class information. Let's get down to nuts and bolts. That's me, Michael Lorenz. I'm glad to meet you guys. Again, I wish we could do this in person, but I know there's some wonderful things about doing it online. So I'm really glad to have you guys in class. My office in the IC building, it's 219 where I'm right now. I encourage you guys, if you're on campus, swing by and come to my office hours. I'd love to sit down with you guys and come by and discuss what we're reading in class. That you guys have two fabulous books. Drop by, let's talk. I'd love to see you in my office hours, come by, or if you need help with a paper, you're working on something, just come by and chat. definitely come by and make use of that. There's my office phone number and my office email. That's a good way to get a hold of me. My office email, of course. And speaking of office hours, there they are. But office hours maybe sound kind of intimidating. We're kind of giving a new moniker. Student hours is for you guys. So in person, Tuesdays from 2 to 4, I will be in this chair right here. So come on by. I like having students swing by, so swing by, come chat a little bit. And also, by the way, I know you guys in online class. Some of you guys maybe not even local. That's totally fine. We got you too. So Zoom office hours Wednesday 1 to 3. Now, by the way, if that Tuesday time period works better for you, that can work as well. Send me an email, and I could do a Zoom during that time period too, even on Tuesday 2 to 4. Send an email, say, hey, you know what? I'm in Mariposa, wherever you're at. It's not convenient for me to be on campus, but I would like to talk to you a little bit. Wednesday doesn't work for me, but I could do Tuesday. Fine, just send me an email and make sure I get back to you. We can set up a time during those office hours, and we can Zoom on Tuesday as well. The Zoom ID may or may not be right. I may have to update that with you guys. If I do, I'll put that in Canvas and announce that to you guys, the Zoom ID number. But in any case, I'll communicate with you guys then. So our class goes from January 17 to May 25 will be our final. There's no prerequisites for this class. And let's get down to the books for this class. You'll see why I picked out Orwell and Churchill for those quotes. So you need 2 books. See them right in front of you? Sources of European History since 1900, and that's second edition by Perry, Berg, and Kokonis. That is this book right here too. Although you see it on the screen in front of you, so you don't need me holding it up, but I will anyways. And then you guys, we're also reading Tom Rick's Churchill and Orwell, The Fight for Freedom. I got my copy right here, although your soft cover probably look like the one you guys see on the screen right in front of you. Both these books are powerful. I think you guys will really enjoy them, and you need both these books. I want to give you guys a little tip. You know, sometimes there are some college students, I know you guys never do this, but at the start of the semester, they try to get a feel of the professor and they ask themselves this question. Do I really need that book? You know, can I kind of sail through the class because the book's not really used by the professor? I can do the mental math. It's not really being used. You know, what do I need to do here? The answer is you absolutely need both those books. There's no way you can pass this class. And by the way, the learning loss would be catastrophic. Yeah, of course, you need both these books. So, and both these books are fabulous. So that's not a chore. You guys will really enjoy both these books. Both these books, but they do something quite different, by the way. This book gives you, it's all primary sources. These are all short documents, typically 2 or 3 pages, sometimes less than that, sometimes a little bit more, but all written by people from the time period we're talking about. So instead of a secondary source, you're reading, say, about a piece by Adolf Hitler. You can read actually Adolf Hitler's own words, excerpts from his book, Mein Kampf. So you're reading him himself, not interpreted for you by some historian. No, you're reading excerpts from all these authors directly. It's a fabulous way to study history. It's incredibly engaging. It's powerful. And that's what this book is. Now, this book is by a secondary historian, but it's a little bit different. He's going to follow a dual biography of George Orwell and Winston Churchill. In many ways, these guys are very different. I don't want to give you guys too much of a preview of the book, but Tom Ricks admires both of them. He got his background as a war correspondent and journalist. But he's making an argument in this book that even though these two men, their public career is quite different politically, they're not aligned at all, quite different politically, never met. They're both English, they're both British. But even though their lives are quite different, he argues both of them had incredibly important critical contributions to the 20th century and to the 21st century and beyond. And that includes to you and I right now. You see a subtitle, Fight for Freedom. I won't preview this too much for you because I want to keep moving on with the syllabus. But this book is incredibly powerful. It's also, I chose this for an additional reason. I think it's very applicable to what we're going through right now in our crises in the world currently. That means right now. But also, I wanted to give you guys something of the best of humanity. Honestly, this book, which is outstanding, this book oftentimes highlights the great struggles and maybe at times shading into showing us the tragic results of some of these great struggles. I wanted to balance it with these book, of course, this book talking about that, but also it does have an optimistic outlook on the agency of those involved. And the agency means what you and I, because of our willpower and decisions we make, how we can contribute to the conversation, to society around us. And certainly Tom Ricks is arguing that both Churchill and Orwell made incredibly important contributions to the world we live around. And it's inspiring for what you and I, admittedly probably much smaller pools than Churchill and Orwell, but in our own space, what we can do to preserve the best of humanity. It's great. Okay, so you need both those books. By the way, you want to get those books as quickly as you can because we're going to jump right in modules and reading assignments with both of those. So now, if you're a history major, this book I recommend to you guys. If you're not a history major, don't sweat it. If you're a history major, this be a book that's handy for you. We're not going to use this book right here in class called A Pocket Guide to Writing History. So most of you guys are totally good. You don't need that book in front of you on the screen right now. But if you're a history major, and some of you guys probably are, I would highly recommend this because this will help you develop. Even though we're not going to spend a long time with that book in this class, actually we're not going to spend any time with that small book in this class per se. But just as a historian at the part of the craft you guys are learning to do, that book will be very helpful to you guys as you're developing your skill set as a historian. For example, writing, recommendations on writing, research, and so forth, beyond the scope of our class, but very helpful for you guys. So if you're a history major and you want to go on and study more, that small book, very helpful. I recommend it to you guys. The rest of you, you're fine. Don't worry about it. All right. So as you guys know, we're going to be using Canvas for our class and Zoom for office hours. Canvas is going to be our mode. You guys already know that because you're here. And modules will be great. And the modules, set them up. It should be pretty, it's all dated for you guys. Should be pretty logically simple. And that's going to be your go-to in modules, just to kind of work your way through all the dates there, all the reading assignments, all the lectures, assignments are all laid out for you guys nicely there. Should work, I hope, like a well-oiled machine. Keep my fingers crossed, but I'm working on it hard. So hopefully it'll be very straightforward for you guys, very clear what's next you guys are doing there in modules as you proceed our way through the class. Zoom etiquette. Now, most of the time, we just be maybe you and I in office hours, but just be respectful of all participants. You guys kind of know the drill. Just be thoughtful in your Zoom presentation of yourself. Course description, History 5. So it's a one-semester survey of the 20th and 21st century. So 1901 till today. So politically, socially, economically, culturally. It's a ton of stuff to cover. This class, by the way, could be multiple semesters. I would love that. But it's not going to be multiple semesters. It's one semester. So we're going to hang out. We're going to really enjoy it. There's a lot to get to. It's such a deep, wonderful topic, enriching topic, fascinating topic. We're only going to scratch the surface, but we'll do much in a much deeper way than you get in a typical, say, world history class or Western history class, because we are focusing on just this 100-plus year time period. All right, goals of the course. I love this quote by James Baldwin so much I use it for all my history syllabi, and I use it for this one too because it is so good. And James Baldwin writes, history does not refer merely or principally to the past. On the contrary, the great force of history comes from the fact that we carry it within us, are unconsciously controlled by it in many ways, and history is literally present in all that we do. Yes. And I'm not going to break it down much more beyond because I want to get on the rest of the syllabus, but yes, that's right. History is all around us, moving across the texture of our skin and our minds, our thoughts. Whether we're aware of it or not, our perceptions of the world around us, whether we enjoy history or not, whether we're aware of it or not, but our mentality, our perceptions, our moral values, our artistic taste, our ethics, our concept of economics and politics, and you name it, is downloaded by past generations of all kinds in many places and many different strategies of thought. the more we're aware of that great heritage within our head. Great means could be good or bad, by the way. That has been downloaded because of education, culture, environment, and family. The more of that we're aware of it, the more we have the ability to have agency. You and I have agency to make choices and to be self-aware, intellectually self-aware. To say, why is it I think this way? Because of this. Now, by the way, again, we hope that a lot of that is positive, and much of it is. Unquestionably, as a historian, there are things that have been downloaded into your head, my head, that upon fuller examination would probably be skeptical and more concerned and say, look, I like these rooms in the, using the metaphor of our mind being like a house. And I like the living room. It's fixed up. It looks great. I like the other room. But is there a basement? Is there some storage room in the back of the house that has some serious issues, but unexamined? But as a historian, the chance to unpack that stuff and go through the whole house to be self-aware of what has been poured into us. And that's what James Baldwin is asking us to do, to be awake, and to be awake to our history so we don't live like an automaton, uninformed, just robotically robotically responding to cultural heritage poured into us without any awareness and independent thought of what has been given to us. All right. I'll give you an example of that, anti-Semitism. We'll see what that does in the 20th century. Not limited to that. There's many other, but that'd be one of them. Tribalism. All right. Okay. I think for time, I'm going to kind of move quickly through this, but in a college history class, we are working on a critical examination of history, and we'll do a great deal of that in this class. I think, again, for time, I'm going to fast forward that, but we are going to do a lot of analyzing the historians, their agenda, their thinking, and certainly do this with the individuals as well, too. But I think I'll let you guys browse through that on your own. We will spend quite a bit of time with primary and secondary sources, which is what historians do. The primary sources, of course, are what you guys are reading here in your textbook. This is all primary sources, although some editorial content, but primary sources. And then you guys read secondary sources, Tom Ricks, Churchill, and Orwell. And we're combining the best of both of those worlds as we're making judgments and digging into those and coming to new awareness of that. So, student learning outcomes, I think I'll let you guys browse through that on your own. This right here is, boy, I don't speak Ukrainian, so I'm not sure I'm even going to try it. But the statue of Bera Heine, I'm sure that's not even that very close, but apologies to our fellow Ukrainians, but that's atop the Independence Column in central Kyiv, erected in 2001, commemorating Ukrainian independence from Russia. So that is today a site of missile attacks and ongoing warfare, as you guys know, but the Ukrainian national spirit lives on, and Ukraine is an important example of all the topics we're talking about in the 20th century, all roaring back to, because of course they've never gone away, but very dramatically playing out in the streets and villages and fields and factories and homes and schools of Ukraine. And are watching there with bated breath as you watch the Ukrainians fight for their survival of their ideals as a nation, as a people, and the many issues that come together to make this sad reality take place now as we root for them and in their struggle for self survival and identity as a people. All right. Course requirements. So that now after all this long preamble, we're down to what you guys need to do practically for the class. So the class is actually quite straightforward and simple. There's only a few core things we're doing for the class. Now each one of them is quite involved, but there are only a few of them, so it's quite simple. The first one is Canvas discussions. You guys may be familiar with these already. If you've taken online classes before, we will have a series of Canvas discussions. Additionally, response to readings. Now this one, I'll make a separate short video to explain in more detail what that is. I'll give you guys a very brief version of this, but I really want to get you guys deeply involved in the text we're reading. That's Tom Ricks, Churchill and Orwell, as you guys know, and then Barry, Berg, and Kokonis, Source of European History, our primary source reader. So the way we're going to do that is, besides the paper we'll do later in the semester, and besides things we're doing discussions relating to both of these, I want you for each reading, and typically reading will be like this. Typically will be one assignment, one chapter. Let me see. Yeah, typically be one chapter from Churchill and Orwell. And then there'll be one chapter, not so one chapter, one or sometimes two pieces you guys will read here, sometimes three, sometimes four, for that class. So typically one chapter from Churchill and Orwell, Tom Ricks' book, and then anywhere from 2 to 4 short readings, primary sources, from your other textbook, due for each class period. And the way I'm scheduling them Tuesday, Thursday. And this is an online class. You guys can choose when you want to do them. I just, for sake of making kind of consistent, I chose kind of Tuesday, Thursday time frame. But obviously there's a little bit of flexibility because you guys, as you guys know, it's online. So, but just to keep us on a schedule, that's why I scheduled it. So let's say for the next Tuesday's class, you'll be reading, say, chapter 5 here, and then you would have 3 short readings, again, primary sources you'd read here in the textbook. So for each of those, you're going to do, you're going to find a quote in the reading, in the chapter, or in the primary source that really struck you. You're going to write that quote down, and then you're going to very briefly, I mean briefly being 2 sentences, briefly explain what is the significance of that quote. What does that quote reveal? Why did you select it? What does it tell us about that moment in time, the author's perception? It could be something you strongly agree with or something that deeply alarms you. Just why is that quote significant? It doesn't take you long, but you'll just briefly write that down. And so for each of the Tom Ricks chapters, you'll choose 2 quotes per chapter. You'll write those down in a Word document. And then for your other textbook, you're only doing 1 quote per individual primary source. You're not going to do 2. I don't want to overwhelm you guys too many of these. By the way, I'm going to make a special video just on how to do this with a sample. So if you guys are listening to the syllabus right now, I don't totally get it yet. It's simple. It's easy. Just requires a little bit of thought, but it's not hard. It's also a big part of your grade. And I'll make a separate short video, which I'll put on the homepage for you guys to watch. It goes into more detail and also show you a sample of exactly what I'm talking about. And here for the syllabus, I don't want to spend too long on that one topic. I'm going to move on. But just want you to know it's a big part of your grade. It's a very good way for you to engage with the text very directly, for you to find something very specific from the text and to record that and spend some time chewing on it. Again, not long, but thinking about like what is this? Why did I choose this quote? What does this quote reveal so clearly that I think is critical to understand this reading or this piece? Or this quote, it grabbed me because and so why did it grab you? All right. You'll save all those on your in a running Word document, and you'll add to them class by class, and you'll turn in all those questions at the midterm, and then at the end of the class, you turn in your second batch of questions, which are from the midterm to the end of the semester. Again, I'll have a separate video and sample how to do this, so don't sweat it right now. You can click on that how to do it short video where I go into more details. But that's enough for right now. Let's move on. All right. You have a series of documentaries. You guys go watch this class. There's some fabulous stuff out there. You guys are really going to enjoy it. I enjoy working on this class, studying for it. So you guys can enjoy that. And I'll go into details in the in-cam of how to do those documentaries. There'll be links in there, how to watch, and then instructions how to do the write-ups for this. And then there'll be a critical analysis paper due late in the semester based on Churchill and Orwell by Tom Ricks, and also Source of European History. I will have a special video explaining how to do that paper and examples, stuff, all that for you guys too. I won't go into too many details now. That we do at the end of the semester. That's kind of your capstone project for the semester, is you're digesting all that you process this whole semester in your readings. And also maybe also with your documentaries too. I'll include that as well too in that critical analysis paper. But that's to come. That'll be the end of the semester. We'll come into that topic and we'll detail later. as I explain how to do that paper in modules. But for right now, just want you guys to keep that in mind. Paper is also a big chunk of your grade. Finally, that takes us to the last part of the class. So it'll be exams. There's going to be 2 exams. Exams are based on the lectures. So every week you'll have probably at least 2 lectures to listen to and to take notes on. I just listen to, take notes on. The lectures are to give you guys some additional context what you guys are reading. The readings are quite focused, as you guys know. As you will know, I should say. You don't know that yet, but they are quite focused. I'm not using a general textbook for this class. I'm doing that intentionally. There's a bit of a risk not using a general textbook for the class, but as a historian, I prefer to get you guys directly in contact with the voices of that time period for a variety of reasons. But the lecture is to help bridge this very specific content for the books you guys are reading with the larger context of what's taking place. That's my job as a historian, to help you with that. That's the purpose of the lectures. So the lectures, of course, will be in modules. Take good notes on them. You'll need those to do well on the exams. Exams are multiple choice, true and false, based explicitly on the lectures. So, all right, with all that, there we go. So how does it work out? So Canvas discussions are about 12% of your grade. Question response to readings, which I should fix that right now. It's not question response to readings. Response to readings. So let's fix this right now. There we go. There we go. Hold on. We're almost there. Better. Okay. Yeah, so talk about the quoting and stuff, and we'll go into more detail. That's a big part of your grade. It's 25% of your grade. By the way, the good news for that is it's easy to do. Just be thoughtful. It's easy to do. You guys should get all the points. Fantastic for your grade. The documentaries you guys will watch for the class, I got some very good ones lined up for you guys. Really good stuff. Click on also paper due at the end of the semester. It'll be summation of all your thinking, your processing as you've been reading the whole semester. And finally, the 2 exams, one at the midterm, one at the final, based on the lectures. That all adds up to a whopping 800 points. You can see how it breaks down. Nice thing is in Canvas is as I grade, you guys see your points will pop up there in Canvas so you guys know the whole semester how you're doing in the class. All right, we're getting to the end right here. I want to wrap this up. I don't want to make this too long for you guys. So late work, don't do late work. I know sometimes things come up, illness. So, just let me know what's going on. So communicate with me, but try to be really careful not to do that to stay caught up. But just communicate, let me know what's going on. We have sometimes, for all of us, myself included, things come up. So just keep me in the loop, what's going on on a case-by-case basis. I'll decide how we're going to handle that. If you are not participating in the class, by the way, professors can see how much time you spend in Canvas. I don't know if you guys know that, but just FYI, professors can see if you're in Canvas or not. If you're not participating, I may drop you. Now, by the way, I lean, honestly, I got to be fact check here. Honestly, I lean on not dropping. Some professors are very quick to drop. I'm reluctant to drop. But here's why that may or may not be a good thing for you. If you're not paying attention and you kind of take off and you don't put any time in the class, and I'm busy, and I'll be very busy this semester, and I don't drop you, but you kind of drop in your mind, but you don't drop in reality, you don't want to get an F in the class. So just really, I highly encourage you guys. By the way, I hope you guys all stay. This topic is so rich. It's important for many reasons. It's good for you guys in this class. You guys are part of our democracy right now. The issues brought up by Churchill and Orwell and Tom Rick's book and what you guys are covering here have not gone away. They're alive today as they were in 1920, 1930, 1950, in the 80s, 90s. They're alive today as they were then. It's important for us. And we're being armed with the perspective and history and the awakeness that history brings with it too. So important for you guys to be in this. I'm glad you guys are in this class. Our democracy needs you here. But if you have a baby or work, stuff happens, right? And you just can't do it. Protect your GPA. Please, for your own sake, drop the class if you have to. Hopefully none of you have to do that. I'd love to hang out with you guys a whole semester. But, we know life happens. So, all right. Last few things, academic dishonesty and cheating. Don't do it. We got pretty good radar here, and also software. It's pretty good at sleuthing out work that's not yours. And the consequences are serious. Don't do it. It's not good for you. Even if you have a little imp on your shoulder, that little demon saying, do it. Cut and paste, borrow, copy, don't do it. It's better all the way around. Practically, you don't want that kind of grade that comes from plagiarism. It's catastrophically bad. It's not good. All right, finally, we're almost done. Extra credit. All kinds of wonderful things you guys for extra credit. I think I'm going to make a little video just extra credit, and I'll put that in modules. There's many wonderful documentaries you guys can watch for extra credit. There's movies you guys get extra credit. There's places you guys can visit. I have some of them listed there in front of you. Many good examples, and I'll talk more about this perhaps with another a note to you guys, an extra credit page in Canvas, but a lot of things you guys extra credit. I highly recommend that to you guys. You can email me asking for suggestions too, but there's all kinds of good things. Movies, documentaries, fabulous museums to visit, wonderful things you guys do extra credit. So please make use of that. You can earn up to 40 points extra credit. Be a wonderful help to your grade. These last things are, because you guys are in online format, are not so applicable to you guys, so maybe I will not go into these, but Campus Shield is wonderful if you're on campus. It's a wonderful app you guys can have. You can see it right there. Cell phone policy, we're not in in-person class. Does not apply to our class because we're not in a class together. In an in-person setting, it's an online format, so you can use your phone as you wish outside of taking exams. This, though, is important. Keep fellow students in mind, in discussion pages above all, be respectful of others' opinions. You don't need to agree with them, right? But just means be respectful of an individual. We can disagree with ideas and conclusions, but not with the humanity of the person we're dealing with, right? So be respectful, be thoughtful, keep things professional. If some of you guys need special accommodations, there's wonderful assistance help here available. Please let me know, and let me also be a help assist you getting those things. Let's keep our environment good for everybody. That also means sexual misconduct. Let's keep things safe for everybody. If something ever happened in class or discussions, please let me know. Let's keep this a safe environment for all of us. So more wonderful resources here at the tail end of the syllabus. I think I'll leave that to all of you guys to make use of those things. I'm glad to have you guys in class. I should wrap up this long introduction video, but it's important, right? It's getting us rolling. So it's going to get better and better as we get into the meat of the topic. The syllabus is the menu. You're just ordering from the menu. But no food has arrived yet. But starting the first week of the semester, the staff begins to bring the food, and the feast begins. So with that, we'll stop right here. Wonderful to have you guys in class. Look forward to spending the whole class with you on this wonderfully important topic. Good to meet you guys. Welcome to class, everybody. Take care.